Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Jamaica's Financial Services Commission, the FSC, has taken temporary management of the embattled Stocks Securities Ltd, SSL. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Friday, 20th January 2023. Details when we return.
Hubbard's Multi-Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back. As investigations progress into the wide-scale fraud at Stocks Securities Ltd, SSL, the Financial Services Commission, the FSC, says it's taking temporary management of the embattled investment company. Details in this CVM News item.
In a statement Tuesday, the Financial Services Commission, FSC, says pursuant to its powers under Section 8B of the Financial Services Commission Act, the Commission has served notice of its intention to assume temporary management of Stocks and Securities Ltd, SSL, effective January 17, 2023. It has also appointed Kenneth Tomlinson of Business Recovery Services Ltd as a temporary manager and special auditor effective January 13, 2023, and further supports the FSC in its enhanced supervisory oversight of SSL. The FSC also confirms that its directions issued on January 12, 2023 remain in effect. Financial analyst and economist Ralston Hyman questioned whether remedial actions by the FSC after the recent breach came too late.
That place is operating. That place has been shut down a long time ago, and why, despite this, it is still operating under enhanced supervision from the FSC. That place should be closed. Behind it, why don't you just hold some of things? I remember this then still operate after the man at FSC directed for so many years. Stock exchange suspend them for late reporting them auditors to them accounts qualified on many occasions.
Hyman explains that despite the many inconsistencies at the entity over the years, people continue to expect fiduciary responsibility from the team.
Unless we're living on that stone, we really keep their money in that place, given what we know has been taking place. So the people going on those sketchy schemes which are not regulated, and you get banned. Same thing happened with Cash Plus, same thing happened with David Smith. So how come Jamaican people are learning?
Added to his concern for those impacted is the fact that he says many of these entities are not covered by deposit insurance.
The deposit insurance doesn't cover those institutions. Deposit insurance only covers institutions that are regulated by the Bank of Jamaica. So this is a big problem. You need to pay attention to your money. You can't just because you have some money, you just carry it and leave it somewhere. You need to check the pedigree of the institutions that you are giving your money to invest. I mean, how could one put their money at a place like that, given the reputation of that place? And then you have places like Barita, you have Mayberry, you have NCB Capital Markets. Why would one leave those places and carry their money to that place? And if you made a mistake and do it initially, given the history and the reputation of that place and all the public things that we saw coming out about that place, why would one still keep their money there?
Some 40 people were reportedly impacted by the latest fraud at SSL, to include a sitting MP and 8-time Olympic champion Usain Bolt. Nika Lewis, CPM Live.
Meantime, Jean Panton appears to confess to multi-million-dollar fraud and how she did it. Details in this TVJ News item.
A statement by Jean Panton, which has been making the rounds on social media, has been authenticated. Now, TVJ News on Wednesday made contact with the Justice of the Peace, whose signature is affixed to the document, who confirmed that he indeed signed the document. In the statement, Jean Panton details the reasons for stealing the funds from unsuspecting clients. The statement, which was made to the management of Stocks Securities Ltd, is dated January 7, 2023, days before the multi-million-dollar fraud was made public at Stocks Securities Ltd, SSL. However, The name of sprinter legend Usain Bolt is not on the list of the persons which Panton named in her signed statement. The document details the intricate scheme of how she withdrew millions of dollars from the accounts of over 30 people at the Stocks Securities Ltd. But why did she take the money? In her statement, she said, quote, her father was diagnosed with cancer around 2010, and she was primarily responsible for her parents' care and finances, end quote. Ms. Panton said her father had to go overseas for treatment, and that's when she thought of borrowing money from the accounts of her clients. She said, quote, I don't know how I would pay it back, but that was a solution at the time, end quote. 3 years later, she noted, her father passed away, and again she went to her clients' accounts to fund the funeral expenses. She also noted that her brother tried to kill her mother, and he was committed to a home, which further lent to her digging into her clients' funds again, as she had to cover those expenses as well. Ms. Panton said the ravages of a COVID-19 pandemic and a reduced salary from her company, Stocks Securities, led to her repeatedly withdrawing clients' funds to cover her various expenses. But how did she do it? The statement said she would use various mechanisms such as editing a customer's email in an email thread which would provide consent for the sale of clients' shares and make disbursements to the respective bearers. She says, as the wealth advisor, she would then make a request to the asset management team for the approval of the sale. Once the shares are sold, checks would be requested and given to forbearers who she trusted to change at the bank. The bearers would then take the money to her. Additionally, when clients requested funds, she would put more than what was requested. When those funds were delivered to her, the client would receive the amount they requested, and she would keep the remaining portion. In another case, she said an email request would be made which did not originate from the client, and the entire sum would be kept by her. She says to keep her scheme going, when clients would request the funds or a portion, she would borrow the funds from another account to make the requisite payments. According to the statement, Ms. Panton says she estimates that US $866,614.60 and 18,186,000 Jamaican dollars was fleeced from the accounts of her clients. Now, when we contacted the Justice of the Peace, whose signature is affixed to the statement, he confirmed that he signed the document, but did not read the contents.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Expanding the notion of security threats in the Caribbean is the aim of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus through the launch of its latest book, Managing New Security Threats in the Caribbean. TTT's Mahalia Joseph Wharton reports.
The University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus's new book, Managing New Security Threats in the Caribbean, examines non-traditional forms of security and expands the notion of security to include non-state and non-human actors. Pro-Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal Professor Rosemary Bell Antwine said crime continues to be a problem in the region.
We are all too painfully aware of the howls of anguish and dismay from citizens, from business, whenever the next horrific crime or security threat occurs. And over time, we have become accustomed to the usual, whether it be statements or occurrences, and perhaps a sense of helplessness, I think probably all of us feel at this point.
One of the editors of the book, senior lecturer in the Department of History, Dr. Jerome Taloksing, said the book is the first of its kind as it looks at the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and security threats in the Caribbean.
I'm hoping that this book could find solutions to some of the problems that the world face. Problems such as cyber security, problems such as illegal migration, problems such as drug trafficking, human trafficking. This book is a book that also focuses on a regional body, CARICOM.
The book also offers new angles on tackling these threats. Mahalia Joseph Wharton, TDT News.
Trinidad's Senate Vice President Nigel de Freitas has been elevated to the post vacated by his predecessor Christine Kangaloo. He is now President of the Senate. Here is the story.
Senate Vice President Nigel de Freitas has been elected unopposed as Senate President.
There being no further proposals, I now declare Mr. Nigel de Freitas, Senator Nigel de Freitas, the duly elected President of the Senate.
Honorable Senators, the sitting will be suspended to allow for the President to be robed.
Nigel de Freitas, born in Mount Pleasant, Tobago, was first appointed as Senate Vice President in 2015. He was the youngest to hold the position at the age of 36. Before delving into politics, de Freitas served as the Aquaculture Development Officer at the Seafood Industry Development Company in Chaguanas. The presidency vacancy arose as Senate President Christine Kangaloo resigned ahead of the Electoral College's convention this Friday to elect a new head of state. Kangaloo and Senior Counsel Israel Khan are the sole nominees for the government and opposition respectively. With Kangaloo's seat as senator now vacant, Richie Sukai was appointed as a government senator.
I, Richie Sukai, have been appointed a member of parliament, do swear by the Holy Bhagavad Gita that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law and will conscientiously and impartially discharge the responsibilities of the people of Trinidad and Tobago upon which I am about to enter.
Sukai, it has been learned, has resigned as president of the Chaguanas Chamber of Industry and Commerce. In a statement issued by the chamber, it said Sukai decided to pursue other endeavors after much thought and consideration. The chamber said its vice president, Baldat Maharaj, assumes the post of president with immediate effect. Urvashi Tawari, Rupnarayan, TV6 News.
St. Lucia's Prime Minister Philip J. Pear defended his reputation and integrity amid allegations on opposition UWP social media circles. The government leader has signaled his intention to seek redress in the courts through a civil suit if the unfounded accusations are not retracted. He addressed the issue in Parliament on Tuesday last. Stanley Lucian of the HTS News Force tells us more.
It was a passionate and personal contribution from Prime Minister Philip J. Pear as he staunchly defended his reputation in Parliament on Tuesday against allegations of receiving bribes and misstating his academic qualifications. Prime Minister Pear said he earned his bachelor's degree at the age of 21.
I have consulted for CARICOM. I've consulted for the Caribbean Development Bank. I've consulted for the OECS. Some of the biggest businesses in St. Lucia, I've consulted for them, Mr. Speaker. I've consulted for governments in the region, Mr. Speaker. When I was 21 years, I had a bachelor's degree and honors degree, Mr. Speaker. But the party that the member from Microsoft leads, he has them on their fake profiles saying I have a certificate in bookkeeping. But Mr. Speaker, the challenge is, I will come to his honorable house and I will show all my certificates. And I challenge anybody to bring and show all their certificates.
The Prime Minister chided the leader of the opposition for failing to stop the spread of these falsehoods on opposition platforms.
If I'm leader of a party and these gentlemen and ladies in my party are spreading deliberate falsehoods, I will have the fortitude, I will have the integrity to tell them, do not say that. It is not true.
There were also rumors of a gift of a BMW vehicle and a house at Cap Estate, which the Prime Minister dismissed as pure malicious falsehoods.
Mr. Speaker, you heard on their fake profile that some businessman gave me a BMW as a gift, that I was involved in corruption, and I got a gift of a BMW.
He proceeded to outline the details of the purchase of the vehicle.
In April 2021, I applied to the government to purchase a vehicle because of the concessions that were given at the time, Mr. Speaker. I bought my vehicle from M Motors It's a white BMW 321 right-hand drive, Mr. Speaker. My vehicle costs, the listed price of this unit is $215,000. And because of the duty-free concession, I got it for $131,111.11. I paid 12.5% VAT, which is $16,208.99, and the total price was $147,500. And at the time, Mr. Speaker, I'd made somebody pay for the tongue. You know, and they're not learning. They're learning. They're still coming after me. They're not learning. I made somebody pay for his tongue, and I got $40,000.
Prime Minister Pierre vowed to publicly defend his reputation whenever he says malicious allegations are made against his integrity. Stanley Lucian for the HS News Force.
Hubbards is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at hubbardsHardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
I am Eddie Frederick, wishing you a restful weekend. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.